So, Cal, when you were growing up, what kind of entertainment did you enjoy?
Well, I was probably like most kids. I liked King Kong and Godzilla. Sinbad movies were fun. I love Star Wars, of course. But seeing James Bond dispatch all of those diabolical villains with his tricky martial arts techniques and all of his high-tech gadgets, his trusty Walther PPK, that was an exciting afternoon matinee for me growing up. And his exotic cars never failed to inspire hours of make-believe action and adventure playing inside of one of my dad's old vehicles. My favorite was the modified Lotus Esprit used in the 1977 film, The Spy Who Loved Me, that of course famously transformed from sports car to submarine, complete with rear-firing windshield mud and underwater missiles. I've read there were actually 8 different cars used in filming because no one vehicle contained the necessary design to operate in both environments. It was either one or the other, land or sea. However, the idea of a hybrid sports car submarine kind of blew my mind. Actually, this discussion leads me to another childhood pastime that my cousins in Newfoundland introduced me to, and that was squidding. And for those of you who've perhaps participated in slightly more elegant methods of catching squid, out in a boat with jiggers to hook them or nets to catch them, you may not relate as well to this rather ignoble method that I was initiated into. My first catch was after dark in the shallows of Roberts Arm, Newfoundland, where my cousin Dale and I would just run into the sea and reach into the water and throw them unceremoniously over our shoulders, often having them thud off the shoulders or head or chest of whoever was behind us at the time, ink squirting everywhere. Later, we'd gather them up and look at them a little more closely. And as amazing a creature as a squid is, with all of its intricacies and 10 tentacles, bird-like beak, streamlined silver chassis, the last thing that I ever thought I would discover is that this underwater marvel is actually dually designed to fly.
You heard that right. Certain squid species can launch themselves out of the water to soar above the ocean for distances up to 160 feet, at up to 11.2 meters per second. To understand how impressive that is, remember that the fastest man ever recorded, Olympic Games gold medal winning runner Usain Bolt, averaged 10.44 meters per second. Considering Bolt has been clocked at 44.72 kilometers per hour, or 27.8 miles per hour, perhaps we should coin the phrase faster than a speeding squid. Fabled accounts of this flying ability had been described for centuries, with many a seafarer reporting random squid occasionally appearing on decks seemingly out of nowhere. And researchers had long suspected there was something strange about them, as they seemed somehow able to migrate to various locations much faster than their calculated underwater speeds allowed for. But the credibility of their supposed flying ability was downplayed immensely by their physique. However, videos have captured flying squids several times now, leading scientists to determine the specific actions squids perform to enable flight. They accelerate 5 times faster in air than in water. Their 4 phases of flight are launching, jetting, gliding, and diving. By filling up and then forcing out water from their hyperinflated mantles at high velocities, squids propel themselves like rockets up and out of the ocean. Once above the water, they contort themselves into an aerodynamic shape. Their fins catch the air like wings, webbed tentacles curled, creating flat surfaces that enable them to glide on air currents like an exceedingly well-made paper airplane. Groups of over 20 squid have been seen flying together, and their flight patterns aren't simply passive, but rather actively guided as they change posture based on distance from the water and phase of flight. When ready to re-enter the water, squids simply fold back their fins and tentacles to smoothly minimize impact and begin swimming immediately. As hard as it might be to imagine your favorite calamari soaring overhead, by simply watching them swimming around or while served up on a plate, that savory snack isn't just an underwater creature, it's a master of the air as well. But how could these creatures have acquired such incredible design engineering and the integrated genetic programming to enable them to master multiple environments? Interestingly, futuristic engineer and business magnate Elon Musk of Tesla fame bought one of the 8 original Esprit prop vehicles, specifically the underwater version nicknamed Wet Nelly, used in the film The Spy Who Loved Me, for nearly $1 million. He purchased it from a couple who'd procured it in a blind auction of an unclaimed storage unit for only $100 some 20 years earlier. Apparently, I wasn't the only one impressed by Bond's car growing up. As Musk said, "It was amazing as a little kid in South Africa to watch James Bond in The Spy Who Loved Me drive his Lotus Esprit off a pier, press a button, and have it transform into a submarine underwater." In 2013, Musk explained to the auto blog Jalopnik why he purchased it. "What I'm going to do is upgrade it with a Tesla electric powertrain and try to make it transform for real." So far, Tesla says that they have a design, but they haven't produced anything yet. However, Tesla's team is truly impressive, so we'll just have to wait and see. But even if they do pull off this marvel of engineering, what exactly would it prove? It would prove that something so incredibly sophisticated needs incredibly gifted minds, the best of the best, all working together to design and manufacture it. The brain power required would be truly impressive, yet it would absolutely pale in comparison to all that a humble squid can do. Understand, I'm obviously not downplaying Musk's genius or his various companies' team's capabilities, such as his SpaceX aerospace company. Regardless of what one might think of his worldview, his Starship initiative to develop spaceships capable of interplanetary travel and transportation is truly brilliant and ambitious, and the technology involved is absolutely cutting edge. However, without getting into the trove of biological technology packed into the simple squid, such as bioluminescence, camouflage, hunting strategies, migratory programming, and much, much more, let's just consider one function all living things can do that his starships cannot. They can reproduce themselves. Not to sound trite, but I'm sure Elon Musk would love to make a mommy spaceship and a daddy spaceship, give them some alone time, and have a fleet of ships pop out. But he can't, and neither can anyone else on the planet. Only God has ever made something that can make copies of itself. Yet to even invoke Christ the Creator in conversation within the average Canadian high school classroom, let alone university, will likely lead to scoffing and mockery, if not outright outrage. The teaching of naturalistic evolution has become so commonplace that belief in God is considered taboo in Western culture. Unfortunately, many Christian leaders have been so browbeaten by this barrage of humanistic teaching that many have bowed the knee and endorsed it, further increasing the boldness of secularists and furthering its acceptance. Those Christians who've compromised with evolutionary ideas should remember that the very reason people are without excuse is due to what God created, not what He supposedly evolved. For His invisible attributes, namely His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world, in the things that have been made, so that they are without excuse. Romans 1, verse 20. A question for theistic evolutionists. How could people be held accountable to knowledge of God because of what He made, per Romans 1:20, if the creation appears to have made itself, i.e. evolved without a designer?